Return to our top story. Acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo has urged his colleagues in the judiciary to continue doing their jobs proudly and not be intimidated by what he is calling baseless attacks. Zondo, of course, responding earlier this afternoon to a recent article by Tourism Minister Sisulu, where she slams the Constitution and the judiciary for lacking African values and interests. Zondo has called Sisulu's article unacceptable and an insult. Mbekezeli Benjamin, a researcher at Judges Matter, joins me from Cape Town for his reaction. Thank you so much for your time. I'm just wondering whether you find it extraordinary that an acting Chief Justice speaks out at a media briefing in this way. Do you think he did this in the right way?
Good evening, Sally, and good evening to the viewers. We think that it was important for the head of the judiciary to speak out against attacks on the judiciary, including that by the minister. But perhaps he could have issued a statement more than holding an hour-long press briefing on this, because it now gives it much more oxygen than it deserves. Because in as much as the minister has insulted the judiciary, it wasn't worth spending so much time on it, because the statement itself, or the opinion itself, wasn't even coherent, and so it didn't need the attention of the head of the judiciary. Her statement would have the job.
I suppose as well, if you listen to the sort of tough reaction from Acting Chief Justice Zondo, he's saying that this is a really serious matter, that this has crossed a line, and also issues raised by a number of the journalists about attacks on the judiciary, not just verbal attacks, but fears that this is putting a target on the backs, as Karen Morn has said, legal journalist, on African judges. What is your view at Judges Matter on how under threat our members of the judiciary are?
Well, at this stage, we don't think that there is a target on judges' back. The criticism that Mr. Sisulu had is quite strong, but we think that the judiciary is tough enough to have handled it. And that's why we say a press statement could have done the job. And some of the points that he raises are points that have been raised elsewhere in society. And so it would have been enough to just engage those points and show them that they were not, they were lacking in substance and they were not well articulated. That would have been sufficient.
Why do you think he took this route? I mean, he was also asked, do you think this is going to worsen your chances of becoming Chief Justice? And he says, well, I don't care. I felt this was the right thing to do. Why do you think he chose this public forum rather than a strongly worded press statement, do you think?
Well, it's difficult to say, but I suppose it's because it's likely because it was made by a very senior member of the government who's been in government for a number of years. And so I think Justice Zondo assessed the threat as a very strong one, and so it needed a response. But we are concerned that Justice Zondo is devoting far too much time on issues that are not really, in the bigger scheme of things, are not really as important as his other duties as acting chief.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. That was Mbekezeli Benjamin, a researcher at the organisation Judges Matter.